Recording in progress.
That's you. All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the special board meeting. Today is October 1st of the Board of Supervisors. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Velasquez. Ready? Begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Entertain a motion to approve acknowledged certificate of posting, please.
So moved.
First, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Now we kick it over to our county council. We have to add an item, item 1A to the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and members of the Board of Supervisors. 1A is needed to be added to the agenda as an urgency item. It came to our attention after the posting of the agenda. It is necessary that this action be taken prior to the adoption of the budget. So we asked that you vote to add this item to today's agenda, and it requires a 4/5 vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to add the item to the agenda. Is there first?
So moved.
I'll second.
First and second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We've added that item to the agenda. Bear with me here one moment. Back here. Quick. Okay. So is the wish to basically we go forward with that item and then we'll move on to the budget hearing aspect of it, essentially is.
Yes, that is correct. Move on to item 1A, 1B, and then proceed
With the budget hearing.
and continue with the budget hearing.
Right.
Thank you.
So the first item 1A is behavioral health. Dana?
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors, members of the public. The first item, 1A, and just 1A is for behavioral health, is to present a balanced budget. The last time we were in the budget workshop, we discussed how the expenditures were higher than the revenue. And what we did is we have before you a budget resolution that would allow us to increase funds in our the different areas. We have increased numbers based upon fiscal modeling, excuse me, from the California Behavioral Health Association, and for 1991 and 2011 realignment, the Mental Health Services Act. And so we were able to increase the amounts. We've worked with the auditor who's verified that the funds are available. And so the budget shows categories where funds are increased and then transfers in from equity balance. And also so this is on the mental health side. And so that is for the $6,665,280. And so that'll be the total for the mental health budget. It is a slight increase of $550,176 because we needed to encumber the full amount of all the contracts. So with this, we will have a fully balanced budget and a just everything, an all-in for mental health. I will pause there if there's any questions, and then I can move on to the substance use disorder division.
Thank you very much. So you're not ready for, okay, go ahead on are there any questions or comments on the first part?
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then on the substance use disorder side, it's similar. We needed to increase the expenditures to fully encumber the amounts of the contracts. We will be transferring in funds from our fund balance, and also we've increased the estimates for Medi-Cal revenue because when individuals are receiving those services, we can bill Medi-Cal and receive federal and state dollars. So you have now a fully balanced and fully finished budget, I would say.
Great. Anything further, Dana? Great. We'll go to public comment. Bring it back.
If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have no public comment.
Bring it back to the board. Any comments, questions? Supervisor Curl?
Do you have an estimate of your, after these transfers happen, what your reserve fund balances are in your contingency account?
Not in front of me, but yes, we do. And we still have adequate revenue and fund balance.
Okay. If I could get that at another time, that would be
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Sure, yes.
Anything further? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the 25-26 recommended budget. Authorize chair to sign. It's a 4/5 vote required, and then approve the immediate amendment to, that first one was for the 6.6, second one, approve the immediate amendment to the recommended budget in the amount of 1.607. And that also requires a 4/5 vote. Do we have to do two separate votes? County Council? I'd entertain a motion to approve them jointly, desired. We have a first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All's in favor, roll call, please.
Supervisor Kozmicki?
Yes?
Supervisor Zenger?
Yes.
Supervisor Sotelo? Yes. Supervisor Curro?
Yes.
Supervisor Velasquez?
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion passes.
Thank you very much. That would take us to item 1B, which is HHS Tracy Belton. Is Tracy here or is she online? Or somebody else? Thank you.
Good morning. Gail Duvall, Deputy Director of Fiscal for HHSA. And our adjustments are to recognize revenue from prior years for the most part, or reserves that were available for expenditures. These were not previously included in the budget in past years, just as the protocol was, but we were asked to go ahead and pull them forward and show them so that you could see that there are revenues already available, advanced to the department, and those are what we'll be using in the current year to meet the expenses. So.
Great. Any, is that all from your end? Do we have any public comment, please?
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers regarding this item, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And I have no public comment.
Thank you very much. We'll bring it back to the board for questions and comments. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve as recommended. We have first, we have a second.
Second.
First and second, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Kozmicki?
Yes.
Supervisor Zenger?
Yes.
Supervisor Sotelo? Supervisor Curro?
Yes.
Supervisor Velasquez?
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion passes.
Thank you very much. So that would take us now to item 2A on the agenda. This is the continuance of the budget hearing. And we're here for the public hearing on the proposed amendments to the fiscal year 25-26 budget. We initially opened this on the 22nd. We had a presentation from the CAO with public testimony. We've deliberated over that. And then since then, we've held two public workshops, September 21st and 23rd, where we received additional public comment and we offered more discussion, more suggestions from the board. We continued with the public hearing on the 25th of September, received further presentation on the budget. There was additional public testimony. The board provided further direction to finalize the proposed amendments to the 25-26 budget. And today we are continuing with the public hearing. We will first receive the CAO's proposed amendments to the recommended budget based on the board's direction from the last hearing. We will receive additional public testimony. We will then receive any proposals for revisions that should be submitted to the clerk of the board before the close of the public hearing. And then the board will later on today decide whether to close the public hearing, either adopt the budget or continue deliberations to tomorrow. CAO Collier Warren.
Thank you. Good.
I don't think it's this one. It's a blue one. You have an orange one. It's because they have to take off. Oh, they're doing it now. Sorry. I apologize. They have the previous presentation. Thank you.
So we're just taking a moment to fix that. Is that what you're saying?
Good morning. Esperanza Colio. I'm the County Administrative Officer. Today, we're going to present the continuation of the public hearings related to the budget, the adoption of the budget. I want to first thank everybody for the assistance. I have HR department, the auditor's office, and the staff on my office. We work all together trying to come up with the numbers that we have. It was a very short time for us to be able to come back to the board with additional savings. $25 million are not easy to come up with. It's not that easy to come with reductions, but we're here today to discuss the additional savings. And so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the presentation. Okay. And on September 25th, which is last Thursday, the board provided direction to the CAO regarding the amendments for the fiscal year recommended budget. The board must keep the 50% reserves and the general reserves, which is the minimum and is based on the operating budget, as well as 5% for the emergency reserve. We removed the $500,000 per year request to be on the disaster funds that were allocated under the general fund. And we continue meeting with the departments for additional reductions under their accounts. The board also wanted to continue the hearings, which is today. As a reminder, we had to have an adopted budget by tomorrow, which is October the 2nd. And the proposed budget today has a potential zero cap funding, financial cap. So I will go ahead and try to more or less and explain how we came out with this balanced budget. I know that this spreadsheet is going to be very hard for everybody to read it. I believe they already printed another set of documents that you might be able to have it on the end of this the desk over there. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the actual page.
While she's doing that, anybody in the public that may be listening on Zoom, you can find these documents on the agenda if you need to zoom in further.
Yes, because it's going to be very hard to read it. So from since the last time, so there are three different colors in the spreadsheet. The first column talks about the reductions on the 2025 by May, and also additional reductions at September the 19th, 2019, which is the orange area. You can see it over there. And you have the additional reductions that happened this last week. I'm going to try to focus on these last two ones because those are the ones that are going to be the most impactful, the ones that create the most impact of all. So the departments were given the opportunity to come back with us and continue with the additional reductions, whether their reductions involves operational reductions, or positions that they believe that they can continue providing the services, the minimum services that they are required to do. And so we're presenting it to you. I want to also assure everybody that as the CAO, I was never forced any other departments to make any reductions on their positions. We were just giving them a number, an amount for them to make the decision, what is the best option that they have in their departments. And so today, with the additional cuts that we have, reductions, the number of full-time positions are 568. With the additional proposals that we have a total of 33 positions that are going to be deleted, or some of them are not deleted, they're just not having a fund allocated, which means the positions will remain in their budget, like the sheriff's department, but they're not funded. If for whatever reason, the sheriff, for example, and I'm using the sheriff as an example because he was able to give us an additional 2 positions for correctionals, is that they have the allocated positions, but not the allocated funding. If they're able to fill the 4 positions that they have as correctionals, and they still additional funding, will come back to the board with additional revenues that we might be able to find during the year, or depending on how the property taxes comes back, we might be able to use to fill those positions. But we'll come back with an amendment to you. In addition to that, remember that every fund that we have is projected, meaning in the year that funding can fluctuate and it can go up or it can go down. So we do the best that we can do to make the better projections to be able to afford to have a budget balance. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So it's projected budget, like it's projected expenses. When we're talking about projected expenses, is things happen during the year. You might lose positions, you might lose programs. So it's all projected. A lot of things can happen during the year. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So with the additional reductions, we have a total of 33 positions that are not going to be funded. That includes vacant positions, 17, full-time positions, 12. Those are actually going to be eliminated, and 4 temporary positions. I also want to mention the following. Today, in this year's budget, only $2.4 million are savings. The same positions that you're not filling up today are going to have a saving on the following fiscal year of $4 million. Why the difference? Almost $1.6 million. The difference is because this year, through the elimination of some of those positions, we had to pay off their accruals. And accruals is vacation, comp time, any of the benefits that they have. So I just want you to consider that we had to do payouts to this fiscal year. And so the real benefit, the biggest impact will be in the next, not this fiscal year, but the following year. So I just want to make sure that we all are on the same page. In addition to that, we have, so after we did all the reductions, we end up with 568 positions, which in a sense, that's our full-time positions, but in a sense, it's 564 because temps are not considered like full-time positions. So I'm just going to make sure that we understand those numbers. You can see it over here. On the gray area is 568.30, which is in the bottom of, I don't know, I cannot use the cursor. It's in this area, 568, but then I could separate the temp positions. So you have a total workforce of 564 positions. After we did all the reductions, we still have a financial gap of $3.84 million. So what we did was the following. Yes. Can you handle those? Okay, so you're getting now this spreadsheet, which is bigger. And I think you got the legal side, right? Okay, perfect. I don't need it. No. Okay, thank you. So we still have a gap of $3.8 million. So now let me go back to the presentation. And so what we did was the following. This is the number of reductions that we have during the fiscal year. During this budget process, it was a total of $19,739,000. It was three different sessions of eliminating positions, eliminating expenses, moving projects, capital projects out of the general fund, which should never been over there. For some reason, capital projects were included in the budget, the general fund budget. It has to be a complete separate account. So now with the $3.8 million gap, what we did was the following. So if you can see in this spreadsheet, you see the $3.8 million as a gap. The recommended budget to balance the budget are the following. One-time general funds reserves disaster funding, $500,000, which is originally from their general reserves as you requested it. The second one was tax loss reserves, what is known as TEETR. And that is, we consulted with the auditor's office, and there was a total of $1.9 million that is available for us to use this kind of funding. If you have additional questions regarding that funding, you can ask the auditors. He's present today to clarify any questions. And we also requesting that there's a salary step freeze for the fiscal year 2025 to 2025. But I want to make the following note. If you can see, there's 378 for all general fund, including safety, and all non-general fund, including all the 7 agencies. But for the purposes of the budget, we only took into consideration the 378. I don't know if you can see it. Now that let me try to make it bigger. Hold on 1 second. I think you can see it over there, right? Okay. For the purposes of the general fund, we only applying the $378,000. I just want to point it out that, but it includes the 2 amounts on the side, so it's visible for you. That includes all the departments. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want to give you a picture of what is the implications when you apply this freeze. My recommendation as an administrator, you have to treat every employee the same way in certain ways. And so if you were to do a step increase freeze, I would recommend it to do it countywide, not just general fund employees. It seems unfair, to be honest. The other option that we're presenting is furloughs, and furloughs is only 8 pay periods, which represent about 3.8% reduction in the salary. And this is 1 day a month. And on the first one, it includes public safety. Now, regarding to public safety, I know that I have direction from the board to be careful with the officers, law enforcement agencies. So before you approve this budget, I would like to mention to you that the $584,000 in savings, if we remove all public safety, which includes probation and sheriff department, the officers that are actually on the streets, I will not recommend to do furloughs to them because it's going to cost us more because they're going to have to incur an overtime, meaning they still have the requirements to patrol the city and to provide the services on a 5 days a week or the entire week.
Clarify on that point? So
Yes.
Does your recommended budget include the furloughs for?
When I was working with the HR department, that included the public safety employees, but I want to remove, as a recommendation, I didn't have the time to separate them, but I want to make sure that part of my recommendation is to not affect the public safety employees, which are the officers on the streets, because by default, if you do that, they still need to comply with the work and patrolling the city, so they will have to incur an overtime. So it's going to cost us more to the general fund if we implement the furloughs to them, but I didn't have enough time to separate public safety from the actual, the general budget, the general fund positions. So they will all mix. The first one, as you can see, furlough includes all general fund employees, including public safety employees. You can't separate, it's very hard to separate them, but we can do that. It's an exercise that takes longer. And
So what would we have to do in order to implement that?
you will have to
Change
allow me to
exclude the
use,
sworn officers?
you will have to allow me to use, as a board, you will have to allow me to use additional reserves from the general fund to eliminate the public safety employees.
Okay. Yeah, I would strongly recommend we do that.
Yes. So I don't have the exact number, but I know that it's gonna be a mistake not to include public safety in the furloughs because it's gonna cost us more because they still have to provide those services versus administration employees.
that today, if we implement furloughs, employees and the desks are different than employees that are required to be on the streets patrolling.
Right, but and it's also, as you're going to, I think, get into later in the presentation, is that we're looking at pulling some money, but we also have some more work to do.
Yes,
Going
definitely.
forward, identifying, working with departments in some of these areas that are.
Yes, and that's part of the presentation
Okay,
today.
thank you very much.
So,
Go for it.
in addition to that, to finally be able to close the gap, we're using $460,000 out of the general reserves. Now, I would like to point out the following. The minimum reserves that we are required to have is $15 million, which is on the right side, around the middle, is $15,414,000. The reserves that we have today, including the additional $460,000 deducted from the reserves and the projects, is $19 million. So we have room for additional use or general funds. So I know that it's not advisable to use one-time money in this case, but for the short time that we have to be able to put together the budget, and for the short time that we have to really go deep into each one of the departments to see where else can we save funding from, we would like to use this funding for this time, knowing the following. As I mentioned before, the elimination of the positions, the 12 positions, will bring us additional funding next year. You don't see the saving as much as you see it from the next year. So that will bring us back to funding to the reserves eventually. And so this is more or less the big picture of how the general budget, the county-wide budget, it looks today. This includes the two amendments to the budgets that you just approved from behavioral health and the HSA. And it was important for us to have those amendments because technically those departments will be upside down, but that's not the idea. We want to have a balanced budget in every single department. So we try to do as much as we can. And I appreciate both departments coming together last minute to try to balance the budget, which is what we have today. So total general fund expenditures is still $75 million instead of the $71 million. And that's because of the gap. But we're closing the gap with different funding and elimination of positions and use of one-time funding. The general operation is $171 million. That includes all the programs and departments that are using funding that is not general fund. That also includes the projects under the reserves and restricted reserves and projects that are funded by other agencies for a total of $282 million, $112 million for the entire county. Now, so we use the $500,000 again from the general funds reserves, which is the disaster funding. We're using the theater funding, $1.9 million. We're using the options on general fund, the step-in freeze, the salary step freeze. We had the furloughs. And with that, we had the funding. Now, this is what I was talking about before. In your budget today, for this fiscal year, you're saving $2.4 million with the elimination of the positions and the vacancies. But next year is going to be a saving of $4 million. That's a difference more or less of $1.6 million total. And I would like also to point it out that I need additional time to continue reviewing the departments. We need to review the departments as a whole because I saw many discrepancies that I didn't have enough time to address. So I will continue during this fiscal year to identify potential savings in other departments. So I want you to understand that we might have come back during the year with some amendments to the budget, to the adopted budget. Longevity is, I didn't include the longevity into the budget. And the reason why is because Longevity might cost us more of what we're saving because a lot of the employees that are in part of the longevity, they have so many years in the county, and by default, they have a lot of accruals in terms of vacation and sick time. And remember, somehow you had a policy, or you have a policy in the past, that when an employee has more than 2,000 hours in sick leave, when they leave the county, you have to pay them $1,000 as the payoff, which I think is crazy. But that's what the rules were at that time. In addition to that, you have an unfunded liabilities of about $3.4 million. Unfunded liability means people that, the accruals that you have on vacation and sick time that the county doesn't have a reserve for. Meaning every time that an employee leaves the county, we have to pay off all the accruals. So that automatically impacts the general funds because you do not have a reserve. Something that we would like to start implementing this coming fiscal year, to create a plan to start depositing funding into that reserve account for unfunded liabilities. So the reason we didn't include longevity is because about 20 individuals in the county has large amounts of vacation accumulated and sick time. So it will be detrimental to us to implement that. It's not going to save us any money. It's actually going to cost us more money. So I would like the people that applies to that for longevity, please don't leave. Stay with us because it's going to cost us more for now. So with that, I think that's it for my presentation. I just want to point out the following. Some departments were unable to provide information regarding potential additional savings or duplication of expenses. So I want you to be completely aware that we might be able to find additional savings, maybe additional expenses. We don't know because we didn't have enough time to go into by department into each one of the departments to review that. Part of my request is also the following, and the resolution actually includes that language, and is the authorization for the CAO, myself, to be able to work with the department disadvantaged agencies like HSA, Child Support Services, and Behavioral Health. They have vacant positions that we would like to give priority to the county employees that are going to be subject to the elimination of the positions, to be able to work with those departments and see if those employees are actually eligible to apply for the position. So we will give preference to county employees so they can continue working with the county, but in an agency that has the funding for it. So I'm here for any questions you might have.
Go to public comment. We'll bring it back after that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
If you'd like to make a comment in chambers, please provide a speaker card. On Zoom, please press *9 or the raised hand icon. And in chambers, we'll start with Barbara.
Thank you. I'm the former County Council of San Benito County, where I served for 5.5 years and 2 years as Assistant CAO, and more than 7 years as Assistant County Council. All these comments are my opinion alone, but should be entered into the record. Please also incorporate into the budget hearing record by reference the prior discussions from the board meetings relating to the budget and all the discussions regarding outsourcing and the Prentice Long contract, which occurred in 2024, including the comments that were made at that meeting and the written comments that were sent in for the board meetings in 2024. When outsourcing the office was discussed, doubt was cast on the fiscal study that was prepared by Prentice Long. At that time, a fiscal analysis was ordered, but never brought back to the board. Rather, the board attempts to outsource the department through these layoffs. In my opinion, this action against County Council is being led by certain members of the Board of Supervisors in a continuing effort to outsource the department. David Prentice indicated that the board had asked him to prepare the fiscal analysis in 2024 about outsourcing. Then on the record on June 9th, 2025 board meeting, the budget ad hoc was the party that was recommending the layoff for the remaining County Council positions.
In my opinion, this is not the proper way to run any business, much less a county. If a member of the Board of Supervisors substitutes their personal wishes or grievances over professional recommendations of staff, it's not the best leadership. David Prentice and I put together a budget and submitted it, making the required reductions, and further reductions could be made which save the same amount as these layoffs. I'm disappointed by this board. You can make the necessary cuts without laying off staff. Nevertheless, the board wants to outsource for some dubious alleged savings. Time and time again, at these budget hearings, the board indicated we have to sit down with departments and get the facts. We will work with departments. County needs to do a better job with working to our department heads and collaborating with our department heads. I don't think any of that happened for County Council, which makes these words hollow. I believe David Prentice told the board that the hybrid model was working, that he was satisfied with it. None of that matters because Supervisor Kosmicki, Velasquez, and Zanger's desire, and I assume Sotelo and Curro, if they don't object, to outsource the department. I don't know why the efforts to outsource continue when the price savings haven't even been proven. I could understand why a new board might want to pick their own county council, but it shouldn't go down to the rank and file staff. Neither of these positions should be contracted out, and that's what was happening. The contract was increased from 42,000, I think, to 91,000. Now the layoffs are occurring instead of reducing the contract. Neither of these positions should be contracted out, but especially Ella Henson, who does support and fiscal work. She's not an attorney. You know the day-to-day operations of the county council's office, reviewing contracts, ordinances, resolutions. They don't need outside counsel. There's a reason that most counties our side have in-house counsel instead of outside counsel, because it costs less and you get a higher level of service. It's part of the core functions and work of the county. Thank you very much.
Next in chambers, Francisco.
Mr. Chair, Board of Supervisors, good morning. Today, the County Board is going to approve overall its budget, but I would be remiss if I didn't share with you that ultimately this process wasn't very structured and it was not equitable and fair. The numbers speak for themselves. The elections is going from 11 to 7 people, which is a 57% reduction, 61% reduction in temporary staffing. It's the largest overall among all the departments. But I'm not going to get too upset as we are here today, and this is the ultimate decision that's going to be made. However, I do want to say that in the budget, I'm losing an additional person. But thankfully, this Monday, I received the grant money from the state. As I've mentioned before, and I want to bring up again, the county right now is looking to receive an additional $55,000 from my division. I can cover that additional $55,000 through this grant. This is not the end solution, but at least provides this person an opportunity to work until the end of the fiscal year. It allows this person to help us with the special election, with the petitions, with the June election that we're going to have. So I'm asking the board to at least make that exception. Provide this person the opportunity to work until the end of the fiscal year. The full cost that's being trying to save is going to be covered by this grant. At the end of the year, either the department is going to ultimately cover the full burden cost of this position, or this person will essentially be laid off. Once again, we have received this grant money. It is in our coffers as of right now, and it can be distributed to the CO to cover our cut, which is a $55,000 that the board is seeking. Thank you.
Next in chambers, Melinda. After Melinda, it'll be Shirley, then Gloria.
Good morning. Melinda Casillas, Treasurer, Tax Collector, Public Administrator. So I realize this is a very difficult situation for us all to be in. My department is going down to 6 people. I have a $400 million portfolio on my treasurer side that I manage. And we just issued secured property taxes in which we'll be collecting over $200 million worth of property taxes that most of the agencies in this county rely upon property taxes to operate their respective departments and divisions. So this brings us down to 6 people. This leaves me 3 people in the tax office. to collect over $200 million worth of property taxes. We have operated on 6 people before. However, we have done that through temporary staff. So if I'm not going to have temporary staff, especially with our upcoming first installment in December, this is going to be really, really difficult for us, and we're going to have to limit our hours and rearrange staff around. 6 people just really puts a damper on our operations. So anyways, I understand we're in a very difficult position. I just wanted you to know what this does to my department. Thank you.
Shirley?
Shirley Murphy, Deputy County Counsel. I'm off work today and appearing in my personal capacity. I would like to incorporate by reference all the written and oral comments that have been made at budget hearings and all other board meetings regarding the budget and staffing the County Counsel's office in 2024 and 2025, not repeating them here. This is one last attempt to appeal to the board to do the right thing and reinstate Ella Henson's and my positions with the savings we previously identified and increased revenues identified by Steve Loop. There's been a lot of talk insinuating employees are feeding at the trough from COLAs and longevity pay. Personally, I've been stuck at step G for 20 years, and the last salary study established my position was 30% underpaid. At the same time, some employees in other departments in full-time permanent positions qualified for food stamps. The board eventually adjusted to where all positions were no more than 20% underpaid. But not once in the 30 plus years did I lobby my department head, the CAO, or the board for any COLA or longevity pay. Although when the board offered them 2 years ago, I appreciated that would get me and others closer to making up that 20% underpayment gap. Throughout the years, I continued to work tirelessly over 40-hour weeks, rarely taking even a day of sick leave. I also spent 30 years giving back to the community, serving on several scholarship committees and on boards and officer positions with Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, school parent clubs, the Community Foundation, San Benito Stage Company, and Oriana Corral. My husband did as well, and my 3 kids have been volunteering in countless ways, beginning with Hollister downtown cleanups when they were in kindergarten. Both of my sons are Eagle Scouts. Also, the board authorized a new job specification to align with the work Ella Henson was doing approximately 2 to 3 years ago, but HR never implemented it. Meanwhile, over the last 10 years, as shown by Ella Henson's spreadsheet provided on September 25th, several new positions have been created and reclassified to higher salaried positions, some of them multiple times in the CAO's office. Yet in spite of being one of the largest general fund departments, not a single filled position is being targeted for elimination, while other smaller departments are bearing the brunt of these layoffs. The CAO, Colio Warren, may not have directed all of them, but she certainly did direct the elimination of the positions in our department budget. So I urge you to do the right thing and direct our positions be reinstated with the savings we previously identified, and if needed, by additional revenues identified by Steve Loop prior to final adoption of the amended budget.
Gloria? And followed Gloria would be Ken and then Dana.
Good morning. I am speaking on behalf of my fellow coworkers who wanted to be here but could not due to their departments being understaffed. Instead of being here speaking up for their worth, trying to make you all understand their value, they are serving our community, the very community that will be affected and suffer the cost of layoffs, furloughs, employee burnout, and folks leaving for fair wages and affordable health coverage. Let me paint you a picture of San Benito County employees' salary and benefits. We continue to be the lowest paid in comparison to our surrounding counties, yet the fastest growing, which also means our caseloads are growing, but not our pay. Healthcare premiums rose 10%, but not our pay. We stand in line with our clients at the food pantry. We are literally the working poor. It's not right that the workforce is paying the price for your budgeting errors. We understand there is a gap, but why is it that the workforce are the only folks taking the hit? Why are we not all contributing to ratify your budgeting errors?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Well, welcome to the first day of the second quarter, right? So in my office, we spent quite a bit of time last night and this morning looking at our salary savings, because to me, that's what's most important and most expensive on the budget. So going forward, just looking at what our staff is working under without a full-time ag commissioner, not projected to have one till at least mid-third quarter at best, 2 retirements as seasonals, I'm looking at saving at least 200, if not 250,000 in salary savings. I worked quite a bit with the CAO and her staff to include that in our projected budget, but it doesn't show it on paper. What it does show on paper is I'm projected to lose a staff member. Losing a staff member, I can see that in the budget, but I also can't see where it shows that I will lose the revenue generated by that staff member, which oftentimes in our department is at least 70, if not 80% subvented. And a lot like somebody else said today, I received a couple contract options from the state just on the 29th to the tune of maybe 20,000, but I can't even think about bringing them before you if I don't have the staff to do them, because I don't really have the staff to do everything we're doing today. I know that decisions are difficult before you, but I'd just like to remind you that ag is the #1 industry. We not only protect people, but the environment and also the agricultural community. And I would hope that we could reinstate the position that's on the chopping block. Thank you.
As Dana's coming up, following Dana will be Enrique, Ella, and then Sheriff Taylor.
So thank you for this moment to speak. I'd like to speak a little bit about the importance of the subvented departments, behavioral health and health and human services. These departments take care and address the needs of the county's most vulnerable residents, individuals with significant mental health and substance use disorders, individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness, youth and families where child abuse and child neglect has occurred. If the subvented departments are included in the staff salary freezes, it will make it harder to retain valuable staff who contribute to the health and safety of the residents of San Benito County. The Behavioral Health Department cannot afford to lose any employees, as we need to maintain capacity to serve the percentage of the over 20,000 individuals who are Medi-Cal beneficiaries with significant behavioral health conditions. And this is known as state adequacy, and we are required by the Department of Healthcare Services to have the capacity to address needs. And so if we don't, not only will we be fined, but individuals will suffer unnecessarily. Suicide risk and overdose risk will increase. I am concerned how furloughs will also impact our department's ability to have network adequacy. And I would request that the Behavioral Health Department be not be included in furloughs until we can have time to assess if that will impact network adequacy. And I'm pretty sure that it will, because I have to account for every staff hour, believe it or not, and have a calculation in terms of how many individuals we can serve. And as CAO Culia noted, salary step freezes and furloughs for the subvented departments will not save any general fund dollars. I understand the importance of, standing together and things being equal. I do want to point out that public safety has different retirement benefits that are more beneficial financially. And I believe prior salary negotiations resulted in higher increases to public safety. I'm not 100% sure about that. So I just bring that up because each department really should be considered independently, taking an equity lens and not just saying, well, we have to do this. I don't speak for all of the other department heads, but I was just told by one that they would not hold this against the subvented departments if we were not included in reductions that really will not help the general fund at all. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board and the public. My name is Enrique Arriola. I'm the president for Management Employees Group. First and foremost, MEG strongly believes that the county employees, including management and staff across every department, must be protected from layoffs, furloughs, pay reductions, and wage freezes. These measures would have damaging and lasting consequences not only for employees, but also for the services our community depends on. We acknowledge the county's current budget deficit and recognize the financial challenges before you. Employees are the backbone of the county. They provide vital day-to-day services that residents rely on, whether it's public safety, health, infrastructure, or administration. Undermining them through furloughs, wage freezes, or cuts will create service gaps, disrupt continuity, and erode public trust. The reality is that the cost of negative impacts to employees will far outweigh any perceived savings. If employees face furloughs or wage freezes, many will be forced to seek employment elsewhere. Vacancies will grow, recruitment will become increasingly difficult, and positions will remain unfilled. Plus, any new employee will be difficult to retain. We have seen that before. The county will lose institutional knowledge and experienced staff, leading to service delays, inefficiencies, and higher long-term costs, not to mention the administrative burden and low morale. Ultimately, the public will suffer from reduced access to essential services. We firmly and respectfully urge the board to reject any proposals for layoffs, furloughs, wage freeze, or pay reductions. Protect longevity pay and merit-based salary increases, which are critical to retaining talent and ensuring fairness. Work in partnership with employee unions on solutions that address today's fiscal challenges while also building long-term stability. This cannot be solved with short-term fixes that harm employees and weaken services. We must instead work together on a long-term plan that increases revenues, strengthens fiscal oversight, and ensures sustainability for years to come. Any negative impact to employees is a no-win situation for the workforce, for the county, and for the public. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ella Henson, and I hold one of the vital positions identified to be laid off. I am taking personal time off to share my public comment. The moment you were sworn in, you became responsible for the best interests of several hundred staff persons who are the backbone of your time spent as supervisor. Each and every one of us serves a purpose. We have a job to do, and we do it with public servant passion. Without us, your term as supervisor is futile. Our voices deserve the same attention and respect you give to your constituents. Our voice should be listened to as we speak from raw experience serving in our departmental trenches. There is not one county employee I've spoken with who is in support of the board's intent to eliminate the remaining positions in county council. Both me and Shirley Murphy have been separately approached by all levels of staff, from elected officials, department heads, and non-managerial staff, who are concerned and confused as to why this decision is being made. They are shocked and they are disappointed. And they collectively concur that it makes no good sense for the county to eliminate me and Shirley when there are other options, many of which have been presented to administration. The board, like my fellow colleagues, should also be gravely concerned. The decisions you are making today will have long and far-reaching repercussions. To speak to CEO Colio's analogy shared on September 22nd, there may be two cars in the garage, but each one is doing vastly different things. You can have a 4x4 utility vehicle and you can have a sedan coexisting, each serving separate functions for you. My role in the county is essential, and my job in my department is vital to its operations. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not being truthful. Every department needs a fiscal support person, and when you have an office that is largely operated under private contract, that fiscal support person becomes critical in maintaining the standards and best interests of the county. That is my role. Over the last 8 years, I have consistently looked out for the county's bottom dollar, and I have intercepted a long list of overpayments, underpayments, and other discrepancies that would have gone unnoticed had I not been in my role protecting the county. I expressed to you in June but I'm concerned that there is not a plan in place to continue the duties and tasks at my desk. There is billing that must be done to bring in reimbursements and revenue, which is a specialized task. I ask you today, who has been identified to take on these duties going forward? To my knowledge, there is not a stable succession plan in place. And regarding the role of Shirley Murphy in her 30 years providing legal experience relating to public works matters, who will succeed her? These are critical questions that beg to be answered and considered before such a drastic change is made. Thank you for your time.
Sheriff Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, our CAO, council. Like I always tell you, I'm always back and forth on whether or not I'm going to say something, but I do feel like I need to say a couple things. Some would have to do with what the CAO talked about, and some of things that have come up. But I just want to comment mostly to the public and overarching to my staff, who are going to be beat up more than they already have over any exemptions that you give to public safety. And I have notes because you know me, I'll talk here for an hour. So I've been quiet throughout most of this budget process, as I don't want anyone to think I'm being defensive. We're an extremely small county. Everybody talks. Everything comes back to our office as to what's being said. And we try not to address it because we know that there's a lot of emotion and a lot of people trying to stand up for their own people, which is admirable. And the hardest thing to do is to stand here and be perceived that we're not sharing in the pain that everyone else is going through. I know that we've been slandered repeatedly in back rooms of this county. That clearly is weighing on my team, and they do expect a leader to stand up for them. We're an easy target. We're the largest part of your budget. A lot of things like medical alone is over $3 million. Food for the jail is $2.5 million. There are things that inflate our budget that are not luxury items. We have cars that don't work. We have thankfully a radio system that's going to be looked at, but we're not living the life of luxury over in the sheriff's office. We're suffering like everybody else. We've been struggling to hire, even though, as mentioned, we do make a nice salary and we do have good benefits, but nobody wants to come and work with us. Why? Because most cops only live a few years after retirement. They either die from the job or they die from suicide. Anyone has had the opportunity to come and work with us. We've been trying to hire for years. The applications aren't coming in. Instead of defaming us for the salary and benefits that we have negotiated due to the dangerous and horrific nature of our work, maybe people should be supporting public safety and understanding that we're the first ones that anybody in this county calls whenever anything goes wrong. We're the first ones, be it potentially uprest at a public meeting, anything that has to do with the river, anything that has to do with anything, the first call comes to the sheriff's office. The stories that we could tell everybody alone, the stories, they just about what these deputies and what the correctional officers see, the stories are offensive to people. We can't even talk about the things that we go through. To talk about a little bit what the CAO was talking about, furloughs don't work in public safety. I went through furloughs at my old employer in the city of Watsonville. They furloughed the police department. We ended up making more money that year because we had to come in on overtime. We're already so, if we had larger staffing that we could absorb the furlough, then we can do that. I'm being realistic with the CAO. We're already below minimums, especially in the jail. So anybody that doesn't come to work, we have to backfill them on overtime. So we can do the furloughs, that's fine. If we want to be fair and have the deputies do furloughs, but they're going to come right back and make time and a half. So they're going to make more money by being furloughed. So we're just trying to be realistic about that. We've gone above and beyond as a sheriff's office. The board wasn't asking too much of us. We've given over $1 million plus positions that we weren't, it's still not enough. I still hear the feedback that we're not doing enough to try to help out. So it's just getting to the point where I need to stand up for my staff and maybe stop being so friendly. We can't go backward at the jail. The county's in the middle of settling a lawsuit that we did nothing wrong. My staff in the jail did nothing wrong, but we're still looking at a lawsuit because the overarching theme was staffing. And so we can't go backward. So when we are talking about freezing some positions in corrections because we have so many openings,
There is no way that if we fill those positions, which I don't think we're going to be able to do, if we get to that point, I will have to come back to the board and ask you to open those positions up, but we're trying to be helpful and freeze them so we can balance this budget. I appreciate the process for me personally, for those of you that have reached out, for the collaboration that we've had, for the courage that the board has shown. I've taken a lot of grief for even complimenting the Board of Supervisors right now. But I'm always going to give credit where credit's due. Our CAO has done a fantastic job with communication with us, with Kelly Kennedy. Our new counsel has been fantastic. The board, for me, in this process, has been very communicative and have been trying to help. We're not going to agree on everything, but I'm not going to stand up here and act like you haven't tried to do the right thing by the sheriff's office. And I appreciate that. And I feel for everybody. I'm going to be affected personally in my home based on things that are going to happen here. My family is going to be affected because they're not in safety. And that's what makes it so hard, is that I'm a part of this community. I love everybody that works here. I always want to help out. I always want to do our part. But I have to separate out being the sheriff and doing what's right by public safety, which is the number one priority of government, is the safety and the health of this community. And then being Eric, that lives here, works here, loves everybody that's here, and feels for what everybody's going through, because it's not fair for anybody. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Okay, and I have one on Zoom. You've been unmuted and you have 3 minutes. You'll need to unmute yourself on your end.
Hi, good morning. This is Elia Salinas. I'd like to find out, why is it that the County Board of Supervisors are asking San Benito County employees to all share in this problem that you're having, yet you refuse to take a pay cut? You're asking all the departments to take a cut pay. You're going to get laid off. You're going to get fired. You're not going to get any more salaries. You're going to get work furloughs, except the Board of Supervisors are not taking a pay and cut. Our CEO, in her contract, has a car allowance for $600 a month, which equals to 857 miles. Does she really travel that equal amount of 857 miles within San Benito County doing her job, while the county has 2 electric vehicles that are exactly for that use? Is for the use of the CAO to drive here and there. There are no other department heads in San Benito County that use a car that is paid by the county. They all use their personal cars and they drive to their work, and from there they take a county vehicle. Be it the sheriff, be it public works, that's what they do. But yet you're asking the employees to take a pay cut, and you won't do it. Ray Espinoza is getting $25,000 a month from now until March. Let him sue. Stop paying. That's $150,000 that you're paying for a man that's not even showing up and is responsible for where you are today, and you continue to reward him with $25,000 a month. The CAO, that's on your contract, but you can rescind that part of the contract. And Board of Supervisors, how long is that car allowance for? Is there a sunset to that? We don't know. But we do know that she's getting that. Every department head there that's spoken today all have concerns for their staffs. Please listen to them. Ella is right on with her analysis, and I don't think any of you really sat down to look at it and find out what's going on. County Council, that is one of the most expensive contracts, and they cost more money every single day because they charge you for every single minute. And you're in there talking to them, you're on the phone with them, and you're demanding this and you're demanding that of them, and it's costing San Benito County money. You're spending it unwisely. Thank you.
And that concludes public comment.
Thank you very much. And I've been asked to inquire the clerk of the board as to whether there are proposals for revisions which have been submitted in writing to the clerk of the board.
I have not received any.
Thank you very much. And then the board now would need to decide whether we'd like to close the public hearing, vote on closing the public hearing, or whether we want to continue the public hearing. And do we have to do that right at this point in the process? CAO, did you have something?
Yes, just to want to clarify some of the comments made by department heads, which is shocking to me. Because, for example, somebody says, I have additional funding. They never notify us that. If we were notified that, we would immediately secure that position. But we were not notified on time. Just want to clarify that. So before you come over here, please work with us because nobody mentioned that, number one. Number two, subvented agencies are not being impacted for layoffs. For someone to say that we're deleting positions and they're not going to be able to perform their job, that's a lie. Number two. Number three. The other thing is no one forced any of the agencies to cut positions. No one. I was the one who made the decision at the county council because it's a lie what they're telling you about Steve's plan. Steve's plans is to have so many projects that they will keep them busy. We don't have projects anymore. All the projects that you had before were so delayed that they were not coming together. All those road improvements were taking years to get it done. So there's no actually savings. That plan that they're mentioning is not true. I make the decision because we cannot pay an external county council and an internal county council that has no connection. And we will be saving the services in that office by taking away $68,000 also in administration and administrative expenses, like printers, like electricity, all those items, we're going to take it away. So that's part of your savings. I just want to make sure that I make that decision based on critical needs for this department. In the future, there will be no savings for that department because the plan to offset those salaries is not in existence. Just want to clarify that. All the other expenses are being absorbed by the contract that we have with county council. And in addition, and because we didn't ask the departments or force the departments to meet that number that we provided, that amount, that's why we have a $3.8 million deficit. Because if we were forced ourselves for them to accomplish that amount that it was given to them, we will not be able to use, we shouldn't be using general fund, we should not be using theater funds, we should not be using the disaster funding. So no one can come to this podium and say that we forced you to the lead positions. It was every one of you that put on the table those positions. So I don't want to be blamed for something that I didn't do because I didn't ask. I'm only make the decision to the county council's office. Just to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Appreciate that. I think it needs to be clear that the Board of Supervisors has directed our CAO to get this budget back to a point where we're in a stable position. So that needs to be clarified. I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a first, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Public hearing is closed. So that would bring us to the deliberations portion of the hearing. And so we have questions, comments from the board. Who would like to begin?
I'll start. Don't mind.
Supervisor Zanger.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I got a small list here I'm gonna bounce through. First of all, just so it's clear, and I hate to even address this public commenter, but the understanding from my understanding, and I believe the rest of the board, has always been that the board would be taking whatever pay cut the rest of the staff is taking. So the furlough is going to be, as far as I understand, it's included. The board is included in that. And I know this board, no one's going to just pick a day and just stop working, but we're going to take that furlough as well. That was always the understanding that I had, and I think the rest of the board, that we would be in line with the rest of the employees. So just to put that on the record, because it keeps getting lied about. So next, I had a question, CEO, regarding the longevity pay. So I'm trying to understand the thinking here. You said it would cost more. Is the thought process that if it was removed, there'd be some sort of mass exodus and then the
That is
payouts
correct.
would cost more?
Yes, because in some instances, that longevity means 15% of the salary in some instances. Depending on the positions that they hold, that will be the case. And so we'll have massive people leaving the county, and by default, it will cost us more money to pay them off. They keep them.
Okay. Got it. Okay. As far as the I'm a little confused with the comment from Francisco with the grant funded position. I'm open to some temporary position if it's grant funded, but the problem with that is that there's this expectation that it continues. And that's the issue, is that there's these grant funded positions that continue. So I'm open to exploring something if there's a clear understanding that it's going away.
I can answer that question. So and I hope that this is the case, that he just find out about that funding, because if he would have let us know during the meetings that we held this last week with them, we would have not eliminated that position because we will forecast the revenue. However, you still have the option to proceed with the elimination of positions. And if next week we see the funding coming as an amendment, we'll bring back that position that the department needs. But that's what amendments to the adopted budgets are for, because you having additional revenue coming, and then you need to fill a position to help you to proceed with to provide the services. That is completely allowable. But we were not notified about that. So that's the reason why I want to make sure that everybody understands that this budget is composed of meetings with the departments, getting their feedback, seeing the opportunities, and where to cut funding. We were not forcing any department. For someone to come over here and say we were forcing the department, that's not true.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Generally, look, I want to get this approved today. We've removed the gap with what we've done with all these steps that we've taken. I'm prepared to approve this with those steps. And I'll say that there's some comments that, well, there might be a reduction of services to the public if we have to do these things. Yes, I accept that. I understand that. I think that's what it has to be at this point. That's just what it is. There's no viable alternative that I see. There might have to be a slight reduction of services to the public at this time. That's just how it goes. It's not a simple time. It's not a good time where we can sort of have everything that we'd like. That just might be how it has to be. I see here there's going to be some shifting, employees moving around and hours, and that's what it has to be then. That's what it has to be, because we have to get this done. We can't just keep overspending and get ourselves deeper into a hole. So I'm prepared to go forward with this, with the zero gap, with the recommendations that were made in the presentation.
Thank you very much. Who would like to, Supervisor Satella?
Thank you. Okay, so I've got kind of a lot of questions here. But to start, and it's not exactly what we're talking about, but I do think it's important. I'm just curious, do we have the estimate for medical, what the medical increase potentially will be going into this next year? Like, is that part of the budget? Have we included that amount, or how will that potentially be affecting our employees going forward? Does anybody have that?
Elvia, do you have that information?
Yeah, you're going to need to go to the mic, please. I'm just thinking like, okay, so we're looking at, I'm just trying to look at the whole picture, right? And so like if we're looking at, say, a furlough day, and okay, that's a 3% cut, but we're not taking into account what our medical costs are going to be, then potentially employees have an even deeper cut. And so that's why I just kind of wanted to, does that kind of make a little bit of sense?
It does make sense, but we don't have that cost.
We don't have that. So potentially, because what I'm like reading in the news is, 114% increase and 40% increase and these huge increases, this potentially could be a huge hit to our employees as well.
Yeah,
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, the only thing that I could say is it's about just general about 10% increase to the medical premiums.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's around 10%.
Okay. Historically, it's been about 10%.
Yeah. So I don't have the numbers of the actual cost it's going to be, like the difference per employee and to the employees, but it's about a 10% increase from CalPERS.
Okay. Okay. It's just something we have to think about, you know, like our employees are going to take potentially a hit right now. And then in a couple months, they'll have another hit with medical.
Yeah, because it just depends on which plan the employee has also, because each plan has a different premium increase.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just think that's something that we need to be kind of aware of.
Just to clarify, the furlough represents, if approved, represents 3% of the salary, 3.08. And which brings me to the other subject. The furlough would impact the Board of Supervisors, me, everybody else. So it's not just the employees, it's everybody. And that's what my premises were, that we should be implementing the furlough countywide. But it's up to the board to make that decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, another HR question. Sorry. So in the listing of the departments then it has your full-time exempts, and it kind of went through the different periods of time that we've made reductions. And so I noticed that most departments have made a cut, taken at least one position. You guys are staying whole at 5 and 5. Do you absolutely need the 5, or is there potentially room that you could go down to 4?
You're asking if HR needs the 5?
Yeah. I think honestly, and I know this, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think the sentiment is that, oh my gosh, the administrative team as a whole is a little bit stacked. And so I'm just, trying to be as transparent as possible and ask you the questions in public. Do you need all of your employees? Because everybody else is taking cuts, right? And you're hearing from all the department heads saying, oh my gosh, here's what it's going to mean to my department. And I just don't know, did you guys contemplate that at all? Or was it just?
Yeah. So I think it's not included in the cuts as filled positions, but there was unfunded positions. And within those duties, for example, the risk and HR, we've divided those duties between the people we already have. So within admin, I don't know if I could speak for admin. For HR, we're taking over a little bit of different duties that spread around for those unfunded positions that we're not going to fill.
Okay, and how many of those, was there one or two?
So there was one in risk, there was one in HR.
Uh-huh.
And I think there was 1 or 2 in admin.
Okay. It shows 2 in the CAO. You guys just didn't have any cuts. That's why I'm asking you.
So I guess when you ask me, I get a little confused if you're asking for admin or HR. So there was 2 in admin and 1 in HR.
I think people look at this building as kind of admin. So I apologize that I kind of said it that way. HR is 5 and you guys are staying whole with 5. And that's my question to you.
Yeah.
The county administrative officers, they have gone from 8 positions to 6. So that's just why I'm picking on you.
Yeah,
sorry.
So no, it's okay. Yeah, so they were not filled, but they're unfunded. They're not going to be filled. They were taken off the FTE schedule.
Okay.
So those duties that those individuals would have done have been divided between admin and HR.
Okay, and so that is 1 position.
In HR, yes. 2
in
admin,
HR.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay, thank you. Okay, behavioral health. And I'm sorry, before I get to behavioral health, do you want to mention anything, CAO, regarding the positions being, there was a comment made that we haven't taken any cuts at the administration level.
We did take
but there is 2 that have been cut.
So my office is down to 2 analysts for the entire county. And I don't have a CFO that I'm still hiring. So I have to do the duties of the CFO on the last weeks.
Okay.
Myself. And I have the PIO that is not in my office either. And the budget officer was eliminated as well. So,
okay. I just want to make sure that we're being very transparent with the public, that there absolutely has been cuts in the CAO's office.
It's everywhere.
Department as well.
Yes.
So you went from 8 to 6.
It was, again, the elimination of the positions was not a call from the office. it was a call from each of the departments to make the number that we provided to them.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand this really clearly. So on the spreadsheet that we have here,
Yes.
on any of, and I kind of did a quick like little positions, what department it is, and then what we're going down to just kind of see it right next to each other. Those were proposed by those department heads. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. With the exception of county council, because we have a consulting firm, so they cannot make decision over department positions. I make that decision on county council.
Okay. Okay. So I've got some questions on that, but I'm going to, I'll get there because I'm going to kind of go in this order. Behavioral health mentioned that they would be fined for something. And I was hoping maybe you might be able to give me some clarification of what you meant by being fined.
Okay.
Yes. So the Department of Healthcare Services requires all behavioral health departments to have network adequacy. If we do not, we are fined. And I can provide information on that. So with that, sorry, Supervisor.
No, please. I don't really, can you please go into like, hey, network adequacy, what exactly that?
Sure. So as you know, we're tasked with the responsibility to provide mental health and substance use disorder services for Medi-Cal beneficiaries. So there's estimates of the numbers of individuals who require services, and then the department has to have either staffed or via contract providers to meet those needs. We are barely there. I can show recent email communication with the Department of Healthcare Services where we've had to justify and work with them to understand our staffing. In that case, it was for psychiatry, but they look at the number of therapists that we have, the number of psychiatrists that we have, substance use disorder counselors, to make sure that we can meet the needs. So if I'm barely there, if I lose anyone, that puts us in a deficit. They then issue a corrective action plan. And then we have a little time to see if we can hire a contract. But does that explain?
Okay, I mean, basically what you're saying, if your staffing levels fall below kind of where they currently are right now, we are potentially at risk of being fined.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Okay. I still puzzled by those questions because we're not taking any position away from them.
No, I think though, my guess is if there are, let's say, step freezes, there are furloughs, there are whatever, I think that there may be people that leave, right? That they find employment elsewhere. I mean, that is a reality that we've already seen a little bit of fallout already of some people leaving. So
that's going to be countywide. That's not going to be just.
No, I understand that. Yes. I was trying to understand what the comment about we may be fined. And so I think it's a reality, right? And so it is a potential that we may have.
Yes, no, I agree. I'm not in disagreement. But then on the other hand, where are you going to bring $20-something million from?
Right. No, I get it. I just want to make sure, like, as we're voting on these things, that I really understand. And so there was different comments that were made that I want to really understand what things mean. So I appreciate the patience with me as I go through this. I know my colleagues probably get frustrated with me for asking all the questions, but it's important to me. And it's important that I think that there are questions that even the public would have. And so I think it's important that we digest this and we really make sure that we're clear in what all of this means.
So one thing that we also have to keep in mind is the subvented agencies and general fund employees, they're all part of the same unions. So how do the unions feel that some of your employees, some of the members that you have are going to be impacted by furloughs while others not? You see, it has to be a fair treatment for everybody.
I don't think we want to get into a back and forth.
Yes.
That's a bargaining issue, so let's not go there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm really being distracted here. I am so sorry to do this, but I can hardly hear to be able to stay focused. If you two need to keep talking, could you please step outside?
Okay. Sorry, now you made me lose my train of thought. It's okay. It's all right. Okay. My next question is for clerk recorder elections. So on our report here, it's listing 9 positions and you're going down to 7. But when Francisco came up, he mentioned 11. And so I'm just curious about the discrepancy there, what exactly that means. So if you might be able to answer that.
So at the beginning of the year, when the budget cuts conversations began with Rebecca, one of my vacancies was taken. Then I had someone move to another department. That vacancy was taken. So that brings us to 9. And on there's 2 different abbreviations. That's where the other 2 positions have been taken. So we have gone from 11 to 7 and within this fiscal year.
Okay.
And if I can just have an opportunity to clarify, when I met with the team on Friday, I was asked if I needed to give another position, would I be able to or supplement with additional cuts? I made it very clear that I can't at this point without eliminating contracts. I had mentioned that the state grant is about to come at that point. It is scheduled to arrive. It arrived on Monday at the Treasurer's Department through ACX. So the money was just deposited this Monday. I wasn't expecting to have any additional layoffs because I had said that that money could supplement that. I didn't find out about this additional layoff until today.
Okay,
That's
so
why I'm bringing it to the attention that I have the money. I can sustain this position at least into the end of the fiscal year with that money.
okay, so you would be going from
I'll still be going to 7, but at least I can complete the 3 or 4 elections that we have this year with that additional person.
Okay. And I think, I know Supervisor Zenger said he was supportive of that. I'm supportive of that. If we need to come back as an amendment, I'm good with that. And I think that should be, is that sufficient to you as well? Like, as long as we get it taken care of. So yeah, I'm really open to that. I appreciate you for continuing to seek funding elsewhere to kind of make up the gap. So
Supervisor Sotelo,
thank
as
you.
long as he's here, can I, just to clarify?
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
The 11, did you request 11? Was there any additions in the request or was there 11 in 24, 25?
There was 11. I've had 11 for the last couple years positions.
Okay.
But they had one, like I said, one vacancy was there. Another vacancy is because a person went to another department within the
Got
county.
it. I just wanted to, okay. Thank you.
So
for
that's
that.
where I'm at now.
Sorry for interrupting. As long as he was there, I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for clarifying that. Treasurer. Melinda, you mentioned that, you were at 8, you're going down to 6. When you, if I'm understanding this correctly, when you said, okay, I can go down to 6, were you under the assumption that you were going to have temporary staff available and now maybe you're learning that not? Like, I'm trying to figure out why you would say you'd go to 6 and now it's kind of like, uh-oh.
So in the, I guess the first calculation is that we have 8. We do not have 8. I asked for an additional person this year on the treasury side, which doesn't cost the county any money, to help with all this paperwork that we've been doing, the purchasing policy, the contracts, the purchase orders, all the agenda items that we have to do. And there's a lot of overflow because we don't have space like we used to do, and our logistics are quite a bit different since we had the fire. So I asked for another person to help with some of that in the Treasury Department, which doesn't cost any money. I gave that up. I said, I've been working with 7. I don't need that. I was asked, I felt like I was asked if we can't do anything to help, on this budget. I was already slated out in June to lay off a person. We have worked with 6 people before, but I've had temporary staff. That's been essential in filling in for the installments, especially first and second installment, which really takes us at least a good 6 months out of the year. If I don't have that, temporary staff, which it sounds like most of the temporary staff has been eliminated, it's going to be just really difficult for us. We use that temporary staff. We've had at least one, if not two, sometimes three people to help us out during that time. So anyways, I'm just saying that if I don't have that temporary staff, which I had originally budgeted for, it's just going to make our work very, very challenging.
So you have budgeted for temporary staff? Or yes, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it sounds like all the temporary staff is not going to be approved at this point.
CAO, can you maybe respond?
Let me see. I don't remember deleting any temporaries. Maybe one.
I mean, obviously, I'm very concerned about the treasurer, tax collector, not having enough staff to process all of the revenue coming in. So I want to make sure that we're not doing something that is going to kind of hurt us in the long run.
Yes, so if you see, it's number, okay, hold on a second. It's kind of hard to go through these pages. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't have any, well, it's one temporary position is the one that you provided to the staff. It was a one temp that you provided the staff. No. Permanent position. There's no temporary positions being taken off from that.
So,
okay, so maybe she needs to clarify because I don't understand exactly what's.
So I don't have temporary staff in my FTEs.
Okay.
It was just that especially during first and second installment, which really kind of runs at least 6 months out of our year. I budgeted temporary staff in my budget. And then during that time period, I would identify people that could come in and help us out during that time period. And we've had anywhere between 1 and 3 people that came in for roughly about 6 months. And it's a challenge to get temporary staff. Do you know somebody that, do you have a relative? Do you have a friend? Do you have somebody that could come in and we use the temporary dollars to fund those people? But I currently have 7 full-time people.
Okay, so it looks to me like there's one position that's being cut.
Mm-hmm.
And the total from that I'm looking at is just over 60,000. Okay, and then if I move down the line, we have one temporary position, and that's, no?
No, so the 60,000 that was being cut in the orange section was the fact that I asked for a person this year that would make 8 people, but I said, no, I'm not going to fill that. We've been operating on 7 people without that ask for an additional person. So that's that 60,000. In the green section, which I think is around another maybe 60,000.
So under temp,
a person.
It lists 60. I guess I'm trying to figure out why we're keeping a temporary at 63 and yet we're cutting, which you said was never filled, at 60.
I don't have any temporary staff in my FTEs. I have 7 people, 7 bodies that are there every single day, and they are full-time people. During the installment time.
Okay, so this is 6 months, essentially, the 60. The temporary is for 6 months out of the year. So it's budgeted in there for a certain part of the year?
I usually put in $7,000 in my, okay, so we have salaries and then we have payroll taxes and
Melinda, maybe if you can just explain for me that 60, what is this 63,000? That it's
that
listed.
Would be giving up a person.
You're going to be giving up an additional temp.
yes.
So, okay, so
No,
what
not a
we're looking
temporary
at
person,
here
a
is you
full-time
have your,
person.
that's why you're listed at 8, which you're saying is actually not 8 because you never filled the one position. So you were really at 7, right?
I'm at 7.
And so that's the first part of that, right? And then the second part is you're giving up the temp as well. So you're at 6.
I would be giving up a full-time person.
Okay. I don't know why it's listed as temp. So I think I'm having a hard time understanding.
I don't have any temporary people currently.
Okay.
So that additional $63,000 would be one person, one full-time person that I currently have. I have 7 people in my office.
Okay.
And they're all full-time people.
Okay. So essentially what you would go down is you're losing one person in your department.
Go down to 6 people.
Okay.
In order to operate, which we have operated before with 6 people, I have brought in some temporary staff to help cover that extremely busy time.
Gotcha. And you mentioned you have budgeted for having temporary help come in this year.
I did, but it appears to me that any request for a temporary help is not going to be approved.
Okay, can you maybe answer that, please?
So in some departments, they have an allocation for temporary positions, like elections. They do have temporary positions. With the hiring freeze, you are making an exception for elections regarding the hiring freeze, so he can hire those temporary positions. You can apply the same rule to this department when they need the temporary positions. That's what she's asking. Like, when you have an allocation over there, some departments, they have allocation for temporary positions. We're not taking those positions because they're not in existence.
Gotcha.
It's a budget. It's a budget funding available to temporary positions. What she's asking, if you know someone, they can come and help us. But that will be an exception for the season that we can bring to the board and say, make an exception for those departments that are seasonal. They need those temporary positions. That's what she's asking.
Okay, I got you. Sorry, Melinda, to put you through all of that. I just really needed to understand it. So, okay, again, in an instance like this, when you get to that point, which is now, essentially, right? Like I just got my property tax bill, you're going to be needing somebody. So it's another one that we're going to need to take a look at and potentially bring back as an amendment. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Melinda. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sometimes it's hard to, for me to understand it. I got to talk about it 10 times. Okay. County Council.
Yes.
There was comments today about the fiscal management arm of County Council, and I'm just curious who will be, if we move forward with what is proposed, who does that responsibility? How will that be handled? The fiscal management part of County Council
It's at the CEO's office.
The CAO will be taking that on.
For example, we manage a contract, but once the positions are eliminated, we don't have the responsibility for the salaries. We don't have the responsibility for paper, supplies, equipment, printers, anything else. They'll all go back into the contract that we have currently with County Council. So I don't have to deal with any of that stuff anymore.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And
Gotcha.
also, keep in mind the following. There were contracts that were not correct, like the public defender, that they were not managed properly. So now we're putting a lot of responsibilities. It's a work between County Council and the CEO's office to be able to manage those contracts and implement county-wide policies and procedures. So it'll be a slightly different than what it used to be. And so I can account for the number of hours. They're not charging per the hour. It's a contract. So we're injecting every single activity to County Council right now, and we're getting back to the departments. And the departments can attest. They have been receiving feedback from the County Council regarding the contracts, issues that they have pending, and all the stuff. We're assessing those issues. But my biggest concern is this idea that Steve has a plan to offset their salaries. There's no plan. There's no plan because we don't have as many projects as I used to have. We used to have in the books. And I want to make sure that I mention this. in the books. You have 50 projects, and most of them were not completed. So to think that you can continue having staff to do projects that are not in existence is unrealistic. That's what I make that decision.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. And I do know that at one time, public defender should have fallen under the CAO's office, but it ended up going to county council. And so I thank you for that clarification. On the assessor's office, it lists that, just a point of clarification here, there's temps not part of the FTE count, and it's got 4 that I think it listed that would be laid off as part of the overall. I'm guessing, so there's 3 under library.
Yes.
And then there's 0 on the assessor.
No, it's actually 1 in the assessor.
It should have been 1.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that was my question. Should
Yes,
that be
sorry.
saying 1 or is that 0?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to, I just needed clarification there. Okay, on the ag commissioner, with some of the claims that, where's Ken?
So this last time, as you can see, his department didn't get any cuts. And the reason why is because I literally sat with them and I mentioned there's no really more room for you to cut any more positions or any of the budget. There were some suggestions about the transition between interim agriculture versus the agricultural individuals that we have with the certification and everything. But I cannot account for something that hasn't happened. If the interim, the acting agricultural commissioner is able to become the full-time agricultural commissioner, we will come back with an amendment. But for now, we can't do that because it hasn't happened. That's what I'm coming back to, the same premises. It's all projected. So we didn't want to do additional savings in his department because there was no room for it. They explained to us there was no room for it.
So okay, so I just want to be clear. So we're showing 9 positions.
Yes.
Going down to 8. What you're saying is that's not actually losing a staff person. What we're anticipating is that the interim ag commissioner becomes the ag commissioner? Is that what we're saying?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, so there actually is not a staff cut in that. My understanding.
Do you have one person cut?
Sorry,
It's
guys.
because some of the process that you have, so if you see in this spreadsheet, there is a white area, an orange area, and a green area.
Right.
I will only participate in the 2 last one. The previous one was done back in May. I don't know if that makes sense. So this spreadsheet was it began back in May of this year. I wasn't here, so I cannot account for those. We try to figure out all the cuts. Like the elections mentioned back in May, there were some reductions, right? But they were part of the 2024 fiscal year still, so it wasn't really impacting. The ones that are impacting right now is these positions that we work on, the orange and the green.
So essentially, the ag commissioner is not losing a position.
Do you want to speak about it? Just.
Madam Supervisor, that's the only reason I'm here, because the way I interpret it, and I know the data is strong and long, and we've been at this for years, but to me, I'm here because I feel that we are losing a lower level inspector. And I don't really know how to read it any differently, but I understand what Madam CAO is saying is we actually are down a position, be it the ag commissioner. So if I were to take the ag commissioner seat, we would actually be down my seat, right? So if that's the figure that's there and I'm not reading it appropriately, I need clarification.
I don't have the analyst with me right now to clarify, but I can bring him back because I think they met with you the previous time before the last time. Because in the last time, I was part of the green area, so my staff was able to talk to them on this area. So let me bring some of the staff members to have that discussion, just to clarify that position. But my understanding, like I said, is they will lose one position once the acting becomes the commissioner. But I cannot project those savings. Let me clarify that one with the staff, and I'll come back with you with that response.
And and once Supervisors Tell is done, we'll take a break. And maybe that
Yes,
I'm
and then
almost
I can
done.
come, and I can bring the staff. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll clarify in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that clarification would be great. Yeah, the other comment I had was just that, yeah, I mean, I think whatever this ends up being, I think the Board of Supervisors as a whole, or at least my expectation is that we share that, right? Like, I don't anticipate we're going to sit up here and we're being whole. Like, we share whatever, whatever this ends up being across the board. Okay, so regarding furloughs, so general fund, including public safety, it's a 3.08%. The total, I'm not talking about non-general fund right now. I'm just talking about general fund as a whole, including everybody. We're looking at $584,708. I would like this board to consider us using reserves to make our employees as whole as possible. I know we're trying to balance this budget, but I do feel like everybody has really, really worked with us. They've done it's been really hard. It already is going to be hard with not having the step increases, not having any kind of salary increase, I'm assuming. We're going to have an increase in medical this year. I feel like it's kind of, and I say that with knowing that currently 1.9 million coming from the teeter fund is essentially, I know it's not reserves, but you could consider it kind of reserves, right? I mean, we're taking money that is one time. So 1.9 million that we're committed to using that. We're committed to using the 500,000 that essentially was reserves, and then also this 460. So if we included this 584, it would be close to a $2 million investment from this board, but I think it really does show some goodwill. I think that some of the savings next year will be able to kind of balance some of these things a little bit better. I know this board, we've been very clear about not wanting to draw down the reserve too much. We want to make sure we've got a balanced budget. And we want to be really careful about one-time monies. But I think that this shows a really goodwill on our level. Right now, we have a little over 19 million in our reserves. The total minimum reserve goal is 15.4 million. So we do have the funding to be able to take and cover the furloughs at this 584,708, which indirectly then you wouldn't need to have the subvention take the furlough either. I feel like it's the least we can do. It's already going to be a huge hit. The hit to the public will be as well. But at least if we eliminate the furlough days, at least we're trying to provide services to the public as much as possible for a little under 600,000. I think it's worth the investment in our employees. So those are my comments right now. Thank you.
So go ahead, Sia. You're okay? You're good. Okay, let's take a break and we'll bring it back in 3 to 5 minutes.
Sorry, guys, for so long.
Quite all right.
Recording stopped.
You're not going to last later.
Well, and some of these things are things that I will get questions about from the community, and
blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, excuse me, it's not our fucking fault. You guys.
All right, thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. We'll continue deliberations. Who would like to go next? Had Sotelo and Zanger so far.
Okay, I appreciate all of the comments from my colleagues and the questions because several of my questions have been answered. One of the things I want to do is thank all of the departments. Number one, we're in a very difficult situation. We have a new CAO that came into a situation that was not of her doing. And we have to remember that. I can't believe she hasn't left yet. And if that's what people want, it's not going to happen because I think this board is more than united behind the CAO because we do see that there has been problems in the past. And I'm not blaming departments. I'm saying high-level executive management was not on duty at the time that these problems were occurring. And if they were, they weren't addressing them. I completely agree with my colleagues on having not only the elections department come back with an amendment because of their grant, but any department that has funding that has not been recognized, to that if this is adopted today, that an amendment can be brought forward to the board in the future, and the CAO will be looking at all of those. It's not, this adoption of this budget is not going to solve our problems. It's just the beginning of trying to get to the bottom of where our problems are. This is going to take quite some time, and it's not going to be 1 year, it's not going to be 2 years. I understand some of these departments have just come back from the layoffs in 2012. In speaking with staff and department heads, it is very clear that the 2012 hit took years to come back from. And you're only coming back to where you were, not where you should be. And we don't have to hash this over and over. The sheriff, I appreciate your comments today. I know you're in a tough situation, but as a local government, law enforcement is one of our number one priorities. It is important that we keep and maintain safety in our community. And I thank all of the sheriff and his staff for understanding the difficult situation that we're in. At the same time, none of this is easy. I want to give every single department their positions back, and I want to be able to keep all of the pay increases, and I want to have no furloughs. But I, as the responsibility to the constituents of this community, I have to also remember and realize that I'm representing them, not just the employees of the county, and representing our community, not just District 4, but all of the community, and trying to make the best decisions possible is a challenging place to be. There are a lot of people in our community that don't believe in government anymore, but I do, wholeheartedly. Have we made mistakes? Yes. Are we all going to be paying for those mistakes? Yes. But we are going to find a path forward to be able to correct them and to be stronger in the future together. And finger pointing is not going to solve any of this. It's not going to solve the past. We have to look at how are we going to move forward in the future. And the future right now is we have committed to our community that we will have a balanced budget. That is the commitment that this board made perfectly clear. Now, how to get there is unfortunately the road of pain. And it's a lot of pain. If revenues are coming in that have not been recognized in your department, bring that information in writing to the CAO and to the board so that we can bring those amendments forward. But with the information that has been gathered in the time that it has been able to be gathered, this is where we're at right now. I totally agree with, like I said, any department that brings forward an amendment that can save a position. When it comes to temporary staff, I just want to make this very clear, because when cuts happened in 2012, we were in the middle of an election cycle, and we did go from 11 down to 3, one of them being me. You can come back to the board with extra help requests for your seasonal work. The thing that happens in layoff time is you cannot replace a person that has been laid off with a temporary person. And that I want to make sure that the union understands. I totally am aware of that the departments are aware of that the CAO and of course County Council, but also this board is aware of that. We cannot backfill work with extra help, but seasonal work that has always been seasonal work has the ability to have temp positions brought back for consideration by the board. Treasurer's office, anything that we can do to ensure that you have what you need, I say bring it back as an amendment, because without the assessor assessing and and the tax collector collecting, we kind of don't have a job up here. So we do rely on staff wholeheartedly for what the rules are of government. When it comes to the egg commissioner's position, I am very much in support of the egg industry. I want to make sure that the community understands that if a vacant position has been cut and cannot be filled, if that is the case, we need to be looking at where we can get funds that are not general fund to subsidize the egg commissioner. But right now, we have to go with what is being recommended in the sense of being able to have a balanced budget. When it comes to the Board of Supervisors, any furloughs or any pay decreases, the board is also in that boat. I agree completely that we have to make sure that that's made perfectly clear. There is a position that has been deleted from the budget of the Board of Supervisors, and that position, County Council has been directed to investigate the contract of that position. I don't want it to be thought that we are not turning every stone and ensuring that every position that is not supporting our community is not being looked at. Even positions right now that are supporting our residents, unfortunately, when cuts like this happen, the tough decisions happen. And it is departments in collaboration with the CAO that have to make those decisions, and they're not easy. And unfortunately, going back to your staff and having to tell them is the most heartbreaking thing that I think I've ever had to do in my career. Sorry, I'm saying a lot of ums. I would like to have a discussion. I'm not sure. I understand right now, in order to adopt this budget, we need a 3-2 vote based on how it's been presented to us. Is that correct? Any amendments that we make to this budget would take a 4/5 vote. So I just want to make sure that we all understand that. And if there are suggestions that we have moving forward, for example, the furloughs and not approving the furloughs and using reserves, my recommendation would be to not use reserves and to go back to that River City account from 3CE that has $650,000 in it. We should not go into the reserves when we have money sitting in an account, which is just collecting interest. And if any of that can come back, or if the board is willing with a 4/5 vote to utilize that funding to be able to offset furloughs at this time, to move this budget forward, I would be in favor of that. I want to thank the CAO and all of the staff that has been working so diligently, the calls at very late at night and the hours on the phone going through numbers and trying to understand stuff. I can't even imagine how difficult this has been for you. But my colleagues here, the public knows we don't always get along on everything. It's kind of obvious we don't, but this is one thing we're getting along on because we know we have to make this change to come out ahead in the future. It's sad that we have gotten to this point, but I think the commitment of this board is that we will right this wrong and we will put policies in place that will not allow this to happen again. The being able to manage your contracts and your encumbrances, those first two regular agenda items are very concerning to me that we're having to go that deep into reserves. So whatever happens across the board, whether it's a subventive department or a general fund department, we need to be making sure that we know exactly where our committed costs are for that fiscal year. Committed costs can go for multiple fiscal years, but when we're doing budgets, it's the committed cost for that fiscal year and the projections of what they're going to be. I'm challenged with how this is going to impact our residents and the services that they need, but without these cuts, we will not have a balanced budget. I I recommend the budget moving forward unless we're able to have an agreement with the majority of the board, actually the 4/5 of the board, to be able to stop the furloughs and fund with that River City funding. If that can't be done today, then I would like that to be something that comes back to the board as an amendment. Besides that, I think, Mindy, thank you, Supervisor Sotelo, thank you so much for all your questions. Don't ever feel bad for asking so many, because you checked off about half of my questions off my list, so I don't have to ask. And I appreciate the time from the chair and look forward to my other colleagues' comments.
Supervisor, thank you. Supervisor Velasquez?
Chairman, if you allow me, before we make any decisions, so I'm not in disagreement of using the 3EC, but because I don't have the funding in hand, my recommendation would still, if you make a change, to use reserves, and then if we get the funding back, inject it back into the reserves, because I cannot project something that I don't have in my hands right now. Thank you.
Great. Joe Paul?
Thank you, Chair, Board of Supervisors. I just want to clarify that River City bank account is already part of our reserves. It's already in our general fund. It's accounted for there. So if you want to use it, it can be used, but it's a cancellation of reserves.
That's part of the 19 million.
No, it's part of the restricted fund balance.
So I'd like to just make sure in the future that when we're looking at the restricted reserves, that we have a clear understanding of where all that money's coming from, because I brought this up at 3 meetings and that was not brought to my attention. So thank you.
Thank you. Melinda?
Yes, so River City Bank is part of my portfolio, so I can close that account, but what do I do with it? I'd have to bring it, I can't just bring it into the county. I would have to bring it into like camp or LAIF or something like that. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever in the portfolio, because it's just a bank account, just like Wells Fargo is a bank account, and camp, that is a bank account that we have, and also LAIF is a bank account that we have. We use it for liquidity purposes. If in the morning, like today, I needed $6 million to cover payroll for the school district. So I just moved that money in and out of Wells Fargo so that we can pay our bills. So closing that account in River City Bank isn't going to accomplish anything, because we're just still going to use it for operating expenses.
I got that from Joe Paul's comment that I had not received previously. So I appreciate that. But if I had known that it was in the number of the reserves, I would never have brought it up again.
Okay. Thank you very much, Supervisor Velasquez.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say I disagree with my colleague, because we do get along all the time. So I appreciate that. Matter of fact, I think our vote record is 98, 99% 5-0s, which shows us how much we work together. And I will say again, the effort and the commitment of this board to work together has really made the change. And I want to say to our CAO, thank you so much for sticking this out, because the incredible amount of work you've had to go through to get us to this point, I don't think people really understand. Because really, at the end of this month, October, we should be going over our first quarterly report of the budget. That's what we should be doing. We should be looking at the revenues, expenses, where we should be at to make sure we're tracking. I know this is hard. You know, we said this from the very beginning. Of this budget process, that it's going to take a whole team to pull this together. And again, the board has been committed to that. Going through the meetings we had with all of you really made a difference. I mean, I feel, of course, we're not all agreeing, but it showed the commitment. and understanding of what we need to do as a team. This year, we could have ignored it, be honest. And that's what happened years before because factual information was not being brought to the board. And wishful budgeting is what was going on, which led to a point of one day this would catch up to us. There's a lot of talk of experience from 2012 from the county level. I got to see it at the city level. All that is because we weren't planning. We weren't planning for that day that eventually comes where those dollars aren't there and we're stuck with massive cuts. And we should never be there. What we're doing now might hurt a bit. We all get that. We all get that. And we've all made the commitment from the very beginning that we're all in this together. So when somebody says, you're not getting your pay, it's like, no, from the very beginning we said it, we're all in this together. But when we stick together and we work together, we can solve problems. And I can tell you from my own experiences in the past, when you build a strong financial foundation, you're going to be able to ride through those tough years. And that's what we're doing. I'm not saying this year is going to be easy, but it will be nowhere near as bad as it would have been had we ignored this problem. There's going to be amendments and adjustments. That's going to be part of the process. I've said this before in the past too. What we're doing is cleaning up. As we clean up, we're going to find more dollars, and we're going to find out we owe some. You know, we're, again, October 1st, still looking for information. It should have been to us in June. So we could have closed the books cleanly, had discussions, and moved forward. So you can see that this is a long process of trying to make this work. We all made the commitment early on about public safety because we understand it's tough out there for these guys. And this is not favoritism in any way. This is making sure our community is protected. And we all committed to that. And I'm pleased to hear that we're all sticking to those commitments because it's important. CIP numbers should have never been mixed into general funds. This is what threw all these numbers so far off. One-time monies that came through in the past shouldn't have been there either, which led to confusion. So I understand how departments were mixed up in their funding and their expenses. I get it. I saw it. But we now recognize it, and we have to work to solve it. To go from, I think when we first started, Supervisor Cosmic and I think the original numbers were $120-something million, which we said at the very beginning, something's wrong here. These numbers are not making sense. We got to get down to this and figure this out. Thankfully, again, the entire board jumped on board and went looking for these numbers. Even more thankfully, we got a CAO that really understands numbers and a commitment to solving this. We're getting there. I heard some good recommendations from fellow supervisors today on how we can close some of these other gaps and be done with this and start moving forward. But I want you to all know what I really want to make sure of is understanding a lot more conversations, department by department, not to attack your departments, but how do we make it better? How do we make it more efficient for you so it takes a stress load of you guys, all of us, and provides better service to the entire community? That's the goal. And we need everybody's participation to do that. And more importantly, we need facts going out. We need the facts. You know, this conversation of, non-transparency, backroom deals, never has that happened here. We try to be as transparent as possible because information is key for all of us to make that good decision. So I want to make sure that we're all understanding that. Doesn't mean we're all going to be happy all the time. I again, I can guarantee that if we do this year, working together, by June of next year, we're going to have a balanced budget that we can be proud of, and our community will be happy with that budget. And we start moving forward, we start planning better. Because there's so much more to this, guys. Besides all of us talking here, we need to provide the services to our community. They're the ones out there living this, and that's why, at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. So as one team, we make that happen. So again, I want to thank all of you for this, all the hard work, and to you again, CAO, for the endless hours you put into bringing us these numbers. And I know there's endless hours in your future on this, but we're getting there. So thank you all very much.
All right, thank you very much. First off, I want to thank the CAO as well for all the work. I want to thank the departments, the unions, again. It's been a big challenge, but we've really gone a long, long way since we started this process. And we are really at a point where I think we're all confident in going forward, the fiscal stability of the county. We do have some remaining question marks, which I think Supervisor Velasquez was alluding to. We've been ringing the alarm bell on some of these numbers and discrepancies, and I fully expect that the work isn't done, that we're going to move ahead and hopefully identify some dollars. Question, so what I'm seeing, ending available reserves of 19.2 versus the minimum reserve policy of 15.4. So there's a $3.8 million difference there. You mentioned earlier the expected savings of $4 million going into next year. I'm generally not a fan of using reserves to balance a budget, but considering the fact that we have $4 million in savings going in, I try to be logical as well. And considering the $4 million in savings that we have going into next year, the fact that we're already using $460,000 in general fund reserves, we're still going to be above our minimum reserve policy. I think that's the key here, is that we're maintaining that 20% reserve, and we will not go below that 20% reserve. I'm willing to entertain the conversation about the furloughs and what Supervisor Sotelo had suggested, because it only makes logical sense. Why muddy this up? Mm-hmm. Why put our employees through further pain when we know that we're staying above our minimum? That's our minimum reserve policy.
Yes.
And we're already using the 460. I would say if we didn't have that cushion, absolutely, you got to get to you got to do furloughs and whatnot. But I'm willing to entertain it. I don't know what the rest of the board feels. I think going into this, we just want the budget to be balanced.
Yes.
And we want there to be stability going forward. Balancing the budget, I see stability going forward. It needs to be clear that, no matter what we do here today, we have a lot of work ahead of us. Go ahead, CEO.
Just one quick correction, 2 corrections. When I mentioned about the county having an existing policy or an old policy, that those who meets the 2,000 hours of sick leave get paid 1,000, is 1,000 hours, not $1,000. So
right.
If an employee leaves the county and they have $2,000, which is the limit, they will get paid for those 1,000 hours.
Right.
Basically what the job. And the second correction that I want to make is what the agricultural commissioner, and I want to ask this question to you, because it seems that it was a transpose, that instead of being an expenditure, they put it as a position rather than an expenditure. So did you provide any savings on the expenditures on the operations?
Yes.
I think it's a backward. So it was not a position, it was an expenditure on the operation. So out of that position, it should be 9 positions, because there were no positions deleted. There was 1 vacancy position that was deleted back in May. So I just want to clarify that. So it's just a transposing of the numbers. So it's one less position.
Okay.
Okay, just with that. One less. One less. There was no elimination of position. Yeah, it's one less. Yes. So instead of 33 that you have in the list, you actually have 32, which brings to 11 full-time positions. Just to clarify that. Thank you.
So my overall point is we're still above our minimum reserve policy. We've projected $4 million plus in savings next year.
Yes.
We're essentially over our policy and we have a stable budget going forward. We still have a lot of work to do, and I still am going to urge to keep looking at some of these capital numbers. And I know even, today and going forward this week, that's going to be the top priority of this county, is scrutinizing these numbers to make sure that because we're very close. And again, I want to commend you for all the work that you've done. I agree with everybody on, no matter what we do here today, furloughs or not, I think that it always goes without saying the county board is going to take whatever reductions are necessary. And additionally, with regard to the elections office, I think, yes, of course, I would hope agree to fund that position through an amendment, knowing that the grant expires and that we would have to find available funding at that point to continue that position. There should be an expectation that position would expire when the grant expires. If we're able to find additional funding, then of course we continue that position. And I think that's all I have.
I do have some final recommendations, so if you want to put the screen up. So just to clarify some of the comments that you made, part of the recommendations that I'm making is to continue the restricting travel, because we must continue with the restricted travel. We have, part of the proposal also includes savings on contracts that we have, existing contracts that we're giving up. A lot of the contracts, we only kept 4 memberships at the general fund and board of supervisors to avoid additional commitments during the 25-26 fiscal year, to continue with the hiring freeze, with the exception of temps, and temps only for those seasonal agencies, which is the tax collector and the elections. And the final decisions has to be made regarding capital improvements projects. And I'm talking about roads, the library, and the county facilities, because we need to be very careful about what we're funding and where the money's coming. And if there's an additional commitments that you want to make, we want to have a long discussion with that before moving forward. And search for grant funding available for capital improvements projects and to enhance the services of the community. But also more important is nobody wants to be restricted of the activities, but we had to do it because this year it'll picture how well can we manage this county, how well in the sense of contracts, being strict with contracts, being strict with traveling, being strict with this additional expenses, additional commitments. And I know nobody likes that, but you have to do it because if you remain strong, next year is going to be a better picture than today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything further? Supervisor Velasquez, did you have something?
I was just going to say, I agree with your Supervisor Sotelo recommendation for the furloughs with the what we thought was a Riverside fund that's in the reserves. I think that's a wise option.
Further? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and entertain a motion. Let me go back to my notes here.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I've been tracking all of the comments, and so I've written up a motion based on everything that's been said here. If you wish, I'll be happy to read it into the record.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Adopt a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 budget as amended, contained in attachment A, as well as the additional use of $584,708 in general fund reserves in lieu of furloughs. Direct the county administrative officer to take all necessary actions with respect to board-directed deletion of vacant positions, 17 vacancies, layoffs, 12 filled FTEs and 3 temps. The ROV position may come back as a budget adjustment at a future meeting based on available grant funding. Hiring freeze, salary freeze, step increase, pay freeze. The CAO will continue to restrict travel. The county will avoid additional commitments during the fiscal year. Final decisions must be made regarding capital improvement projects going forward, and the CAO will continue to search for grant funding available for capital improvement projects.
Can I interject just one comment? The agricultural position is actually 11 positions. That takes us to 11 positions instead of the 12. And that was a transposing amount. So I just want to make sure it's not, it's a total of, let me read it. So let me
And
go
do you need
back.
to clarify?
Yes, it's just that little small clarification.
It would
I
be
apologize.
11 FTEs, not 12,
Yes, that is correct.
as far as the layoffs are concerned.
Yes. Yes, it's 11 because it was a transposing. We put one more position on the agriculture. It's not position.
Right, but on our paper, it said 9. So I just want clarification. Is it 9 or is it 11? Ken, can you confirm for us, please?
Let me show you this.
That one is 11, actually.
Hold on. It's over here.
Oh, we're
Okay,
hearing
I have it
that.
over there.
It is 11.
Okay, so you see my screen. Can you see the screen? Okay, on the bottom, it says 16 vacancies for, let me see the total numbers. So I have,
Yeah, ag is 9 and 8.
it's
That's what I thought I
7
remembered as well.
and 5 are the full-time positions, so it'll be 7 and 4. So it's 11 positions, full-time positions.
Oh, got ya. So you weren't talking about that particular line item.
Yes.
You were talking about it in here.
Yes.
So it should be 9. For the Ag Commissioner's Office, it should be 9.
Yes, that
On
is
this
correct.
report, it's 11.
Yes, 11.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
That's the only change on the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
I'd entertain a motion really underscoring, though, that there's an understanding that we don't go below the minimum reserve, that we are having $4 million in projected savings going into next year, and that we are going to be scrutinizing to further alleviate the issues we have here today. Entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Move first, we have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor, roll call.
Supervisor Kozmicki,
Yes.
Supervisor Zanger,
Yes.
Supervisor Sotelo,
Yes.
Supervisor Curro,
Yes.
Supervisor Velasquez.
Yes.
5-0 vote, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Concludes our meeting. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.